when our a value is not equal to 1. So hopefully you've noticed so far, every example we have done, our a value has been 1. So just x squared, not 2x squared or 4x squared, it's just been x squared. So now we need some different tools for when our a value is not 1. So our first step, of course, we always want to look to do this, is factor the greatest common factor of all the terms. So if there's something we can take out first to help us make the number smaller, let's go ahead and do that. Okay, step 2, find factors of a times c that add up to b. So that's just like we did before, nothing new there. Using these two factors, expand the x term. So I did do an example of that earlier where I expanded the x term. We'll do a couple more like that here in just a second. Step 4, group the first two and last two terms together. And again, be careful of the sign inside that second group. So just like we did before, we're going to do that again. Step 5, factor the greatest common factor from each group. Step 6, factor the common term from both groups. And step 7, check by using FOIL. So we'll do a couple of examples of that here in just a second. So those are the steps that we are going to use for our next two examples. Okay, so example 5, factor. And our first one, a, is 4x squared minus 34x plus 60. So hopefully you notice on this one that since all of these terms are even, we have a common factor of 2 in all of them. So the first thing we want to do is factor of 2. So we're going to take 2 out of every term. So we have 2 times the quantity, 2x squared minus 17x plus 30. Okay, so far so good. Now we need to find a times c. Now remember, we aren't going to do anything more with this because we've already factored it out. So it's just going to hang out up front here. We're not going to touch it anymore. So our a times c is 2 times 30, which is 60. So we need two factors of 60 that add up to negative 17. So factors of 60. That's a bigger number. Might take you a few seconds to figure it out. But it does happen to be negative 5 times negative 12 is positive 60. Negative 5 plus a negative 12 is a negative 17 that we want. So we're going to expand out that middle term. So we're going to use these two numbers, negative 5 and negative 12, to expand out that middle term. So 17x becomes negative 5x minus 12x. And the other two terms just stay the same. Hopefully here you see that this is all of the numbers when we end up foiling. 2x squared plus or minus 5x minus 12x plus 30. So if we were to FOIL this back out when we get our answer, we should have something that looks kind of like this. Okay, so step 4 was to group our terms together. So group the first two terms together, which is just right here. Group the second two terms together, which is right here. And remember, we have to be careful because this is negative. We have to change the sign here and make it negative also, because a negative times a negative is positive. Okay, so we've grouped this together, grouped this together, and so now we can go ahead and factor out the greatest common factor from each term. So here, if we take the greatest common factor of these two terms, the greatest common factor is x. So we have x times the quantity 2x minus 5. And the greatest common factor of these two terms is 6. So we're going to take a 6 out of both of those. And we have, once again, 2x minus 5. So that's convenient. This is the same, and this is the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to factor that out from both terms. And what's left over is going to be just x minus 6 for our other term. So we have 2 times quantity 2x minus 5 times the quantity x minus 6. And if we were to multiply that all back together, we would end up back there. Okay, so last example, 6x squared minus 7x minus 5. So once again, look for a greatest common factor. Well, these two are both odd. They don't have anything in common. So there is no GCF to factor out. So if we look at a times c, 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. So we need two factors of negative 30 that add up to negative 7. So negative 30, well, that could be 6 and 5, that could be 15 and 2, or it could be 10 and 3. Well, negative 10 times 3 is negative 30, and negative 10 plus 3 is negative 7. So that one seems to work. So once again, expand out that middle term. So we have plus 3x and minus 10x right here. So we have 6x squared plus 3x minus 10x minus 5. Okay, now we're going to group these two terms together and group these two terms together. So we have 6x squared plus 3x minus the quantity 10x plus 5. Okay, factor out the GCF from these two terms. Well, between 6x squared and 3x, the greatest common factor is 3x. And so that would leave us, if we divide this by 3x, we get 2x. If we divide 3x by 3x, we get 1. So we end up with 3x times the quantity 2x plus 1. And same thing here, we're going to take out between 10x and 5. Looks like 5. So we factor out a 5, 5 times the quantity 2x plus 1. Okay, so now notice we have 2x plus 1 in both of them. So I factor that out to the front here, leaving us with just 3x minus 5. Okay, so I know we've done a lot of examples today. Hopefully that helps you out when you start factoring on your own. And if you've taken good notes, hopefully these tools will help you out. So thank you once again for joining me, and I'm sure that we'll be seeing each other again soon. Have a great night.